Hello. My goal today is to understand how to factor trinomials on the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And to do so, I have an example here. What if I have a trinomial such as 2x squared minus 7x minus 15? I know if I factor this trinomial, I'm going to come up with 2x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 5. Right. So we understand that this here is the sum form and this here is the product form. So my goal is to move from the sum form into product form, and that's what we call factoring. You all learn how to move from the product form into sum form. If I move in this way here, that's what we call multiplying. If we understand how to multiply, we can reverse the steps and come up with a way to factor. So factoring is the reverse of multiplying. So I'm going to start with these two binomials here. I'm going to multiply them and find some clues or some tricks that I can use to factor the trinomial that I start with. So let's learn together how to multiply 2x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 5. I'm going to use FOIL, multiply first times first, 2x times x give me 2x squared. And then multiply last times last, just leave space a little bit here. Positive 3 multiplied by negative 5, that give me negative 15. And then I will multiply the inner, 3 times x give me positive 3x. And then multiply the outers, which is 2x multiplied by negative 5, they give me negative 10x. So now I have 4 different terms. Before we rush and combine like terms, such as 3x and negative 10x, I want to look at these numbers and try to study them a little bit. I'm going to call this here is A, and I know this is C. But I have 2 numbers here as the coefficients of x, which is positive 3 and negative 10. I'm going to call this is B1. I'm going to call this here B2. If you multiply A times C, 2 times negative 15, they give me negative 30. But also if you multiply B1 times B2, positive 3 times negative 10, that also give you negative 30. That means when you multiply any 2 binomials, you will come up with 4 terms before combining like terms. The A times C is the same as B1 times B2. You will agree with that? I hope that makes sense, right? And this is really the trick we're going to use. So if you combine like terms, I'm going to go ahead, they're going to give me 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. And this is the trinomial that we start with. But now I understand that if you multiply A times C, is it right? If you multiply A times C, that has to be equivalent exactly to the B. Well, this is the trick that I'm going to use. If you want to reverse the order, all right, so I need to find 2 numbers. You see, I take the 7x, the negative 7x, I split it into positive 3x minus 10x. That means the sum of these 2 terms will give me the answer of negative 7x. So my goal is to reverse order, and instead of combining the 3 minus 10, I'm going to try to break down the negative 7 into the 2 numbers, 3 minus 10. So my goal is to find 2 numbers. When you add them, I'll give you negative 7, and when you multiply and give you the AC. Is it right? So let's start with our trinomial again. Okay, so I'm going to start again with the 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. I'm pretending now I don't know the answer, right? So I'm just trying to find out how we're going to use this. Again, my goal is multiply the A times C. So I'm going to multiply the A times C. I'm going to use here something I learned long time ago. I call it the diamond problem. Put the AC here on the top and put the B here on the bottom. The AC is the product. You don't have to write that down, just make sure you know it. And the B will be the sum. I know here A times C, 2 times negative 15 give me negative 30. And I know the B is negative 7. And my goal is to come up with 2 numbers. Right? I don't know these 2 numbers. That's the guessing part. I'm going to use the trick that we learned here. I need two numbers to break down the negative 7x into two terms, like we said earlier. Remember the 3x minus 10? But I'm just pretending I don't know the 3 and negative 10. I will find a trick to come up with 3 and negative 10, right? So I need two numbers that I don't know them with the product of negative 30, that's the AC, and with the sum of negative 7. Well, because the sum is negative and the product is negative, that means I will come up with a negative number and a positive number. Because I know how you get a negative product. You have to multiply a negative number times a positive number. But the sum is negative 7. That means the negative number is more than the positive number by 7. Is it right? You can guess any two numbers you want, but I'll give you another trick that I do. Since this number is more than this number by 7, I can take any two numbers. They have difference of 7. Let's say I'm going to use negative 8 and positive 1. Because I know that if you combine negative 8 and positive 1, they give you negative 7. Now let's try the multiplication. Negative 8 times 1 is not negative 30. So these two numbers will not work with us. Let's move up 1 because I want to keep the difference as 7. All right, so they're going to give me negative 9 and positive 2. I know negative 9 and positive 2 will give me negative 7 if you combine them, but if you multiply them, they will not give you negative 30. So these are not the numbers I want. Keep the difference as 7, all right? So I'm going to go with negative 10 and positive 3. I know negative 10 and positive 3 combine to negative 7, and negative 10 times positive 3 give me negative 30. So these are my two numbers. Do you all agree now? I hope that makes sense. So they're going to be negative 10 and positive 3. These are the two numbers I'm going to break down. So I'm going to take the negative 7x. I'm going to break it down into negative 10x plus 3x. So they're going to be negative 10x plus 3x. I want to make sure that you understand, if you combine negative 10x and plus 3x, they're still equivalent to negative 7x. So I'm not changing the value. I'm just breaking it down so I can go back again and have 4 different terms. Okay, so now I still have the 2x squared, and I still have the negative 15. Now I have 4 different terms. I'm going to start factoring by grouping. Factor by grouping, I'm going to take the first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms together. Find the greatest common factor for 2x squared minus 10x. Start with the numbers first. 2 and negative 10. The number can go into 2 and negative 10 is 2. Because I can divide 2 by 2, divide negative 10 by 2. And for the x, take the least exponent. X squared and x, I'm going to take x. Right? And then I'm going to divide each one of them and put the answer the left over here. So like I'm trying to find what amount times 2x give you 2x squared. You'll find that when you divide 2x squared by 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. I'm not going to write 1 unless it's alone. And x squared divided by x, remember x squared divided by x is just x. Because x times x is x squared. Is it right? And we said 1 times 2 is 2. Now divide negative 10x by 2x. Start with the numbers. Negative 10 divided by 2 give you negative 5. And x divided by x is 1. We don't write it down. Just to make sure, if you do the multiplication reverse, you go back again the 2x squared minus 10x. Do the same thing here. Greatest common factor for 3x minus 15. I'm going to use positive 3. And just do the division again. 3x divided by 3, that will give you x. And negative 15 divided by 3, that give you negative 5. Uh-oh, look at this, guys. I have x minus 5 is repeated twice. That's one way to know that you are on the right track. Alright, so I'm going to use x minus 5 as a common factor. I'm going to write here x minus 5 as a common factor. And what's left over? You put them inside one group, which is 2x plus 3. And that's what we start with at the beginning. X minus 5 multiplied by 2x plus 3. So again, it's a trick. All what you need to do is just keep in mind, the big idea here is what? When I start factoring, I will multiply the a times c. Alright? And put it here on the top. and take the negative 7, that will be here on the bottom. That's the sum. And find two numbers with the product of negative 30, the a times c, and with the sum of with the sum of negative 7. So the two numbers I came up with is negative 10 and 3. And they're going to replace the negative 7x, break it down into negative 10x and 3. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to make more examples. I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter. Thank you so much.